this comes out, but it is Helios versus something a little different today. Helios is the English versus TheReal is the Mongols.
Yep, something different versus something not so different, right?
Yeah.
In the past, even before season 3, Mongols probably one of the worst matchups they can run up against is English, just because. And now for season 3, I feel like it's exponentially increased, right?
Yeah.
Because the Mongols are really good at tower rushing. They do a good job against those tower rushable civs, the HRE, the French, the Delhi to some extent. But nowadays, it's been very magnified in that regard against English about why they're not able to do that. Because a lot of the times for Mongols going into the feudal age, they do a lot of silver tree things. We're doing a lot of trading, most likely. Um, English should have the capability in feudal age to make some longbowmen, pick off traders. They could use horsemen as well, depending on what the Mongols go for in terms of their feudal age composition. And usually with this matchup, um, it's pretty clear cut English. But we'll see how good TheReal is with his Mongol micro, his Khan micro, his ability to get the silver tree up and running on a map like this of high view, which will give him a little bit of I would say levity over making traders. So we'll see if TheReal can actually get that going and have a good peak castle age like Mongols could do.
Yeah. So, we have Helios as the English. We have TheReal is the Mongols. We've discussed this numerous times. And we do see a barracks coming out. So looking like maybe it's going to be a tower rush game. Which actually bodes pretty well for TheReal, as Helios is doing this really, really early farm onto Straggler Tree kind of transition and only has a couple on gold just now. And so if TheReal can kind of peek this out and kind of get a better vibe for this. Ooh! Got the scout, which means he gets a couple sheep, not a huge chunk, but does get a few of them. And eliminates the scout for Helios, so Helios will have no idea if anything's happening or when anything is coming. I think he did see the barracks, so he does know that this is a possibility if he saw it out. But we'll have to see. There is, like I said, the gold is about the only place I would hit. Is about the only place you can hit for the English. The other place might be like here or walking around the backside and putting a tower like here. To get on that wood line or maybe this wood line. But like a tower here would get both of this wood line and the gold, things like that. So we'll see what they end up going for. It is my understanding that TheReal didn't scout much of this base besides, just barely the front side now. So hasn't really seen much of those opportunities that are available to him, which is, always a problem with the Mongols is those getting that scout over there early enough, to figure out where you're going with your people, so they're not doing what is happening now, which is like running around back and forth trying to figure out, where they're supposed to be going. But Helios has enough to get the age up on the gold anyway. So I would argue, that maybe the tree line, obviously he doesn't know exactly how much gold he has, but I argue that the tree lines against the English are the place you want to try and rush. English dropping an outpost of their own. And will be kind of securing this wood line for themselves against the Mongols, who are going to be putting a pretty far out tower. I don't think this threatens those villagers, but it does kind of establish a position anyway.
Yeah, I think with that Mongolian tower, with arrow slits, it might be able to hit those villagers. So maybe in feudal, it would be beneficial. But the issue is by the time this tower goes up, especially with one villager, Council Hall will be up and he'll make a longbow and he'll be able to get this. But at the same time, if he's able to spot this tower, and Helios does in the south, English do have the short bows, which they are correctly trying to shoot that villager down.
Yeah. Speed boost to the spearmen. They're going to be able to take these guys out, and so he's going to get the tower up. 8-minute Dark Age with like 10 farms. Yeah. I mean, he's not quite doing that, but
But we saw Helios do that in a prior game that we casted.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He had a rather weird build. He put some on wood, and then he made a bunch of farms. And I think it was at like the 744 mark or something like that. He went up to feudal age.
Yeah.
So we have seen that before, definitely. One thing, if you are going up against Mongolian tower rushes, we see the spearmen take down that mining camp to the south. One of the things I would strive for you guys to do, and this is rather an upper echelon play, but if you are getting tower rushed, delete those buildings
Mm-hmm.
so they don't get the raid bounty.
Yeah, delete the thing so they don't get that extra gold coming in. Obviously, he's still double producing spearmen, so he's slowing down his age up quite a bit. Doesn't quite have the guys on gold, and it's a long walk out to the gold as well. Maybe would have benefited if we just go for this gold that's a little closer. Just that, so despite it not being his quote-unquote starting gold. As the Mongol, you get to pick where you start, so any gold can be your starting gold. But yeah, so he's going to eventually be able to start taking up himself, but will be quite a bit behind. Council Hall comes out. I'd love to see some longbowmen queued instead of the barracks being built, which he does. Perfect. Because you're going to be able to fight against these spearmen who, yeah, just barely in range. Look at that. Going to be able to fight against those spearmen who are going to be trying to harass you.
And even though that back goal did get towered, and I think it is in range from some of the villagers.
It is. You can just barely see it.
There are other golds, right?
Yep.
Like there's he got lucky with this spawn where he's got a couple golds in the back corner, over on the western side of Helios's base. There's one that's easily wallable if you wanted to do gold down. So it's going to slow him down a little bit. But when we're talking about Mongolian tower rushes, or tower rushes in general, when you're doing any kind of Dark Age shenanigans, the part that you're delaying should be more than your delay, or it ends up not becoming a good tower rush. You know, so TheReal went with 8 spearmen, probably double the amount that he needed for the play of getting that tower. And because of that, because of the long gold mining like he is, he's about 70%-ish to the silver tree, where that's going to go up at about maybe the 735-ish mark. And in terms of delay out of Helios's feudal age, I don't think it was worth it this time.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he got near the delay he should have, or wanted to, rather. And just delayed himself longer with the overinvestment into spearmen. 3 spearmen sitting there. There was 3 more somewhere on the backside. Second TC from Mongol? I don't think so.
Oh, you know what? It's certainly plausible. And wouldn't be a terrible idea because we see 600 wood.
Yeah.
From TheReal. So having either going with a second TC on some kind of food resource, like we have a couple deer patches up on the north of TheReal's town center, which could be beneficial, or doing it for pastures because he's running low on sheep. At any rate, he's going to have to use that wood to make a rather more stable food income for himself.
Yeah, because otherwise, like you said, I mean, there's a double deer patch, but he would have to kind of move out there. There's still sheep over here, too. Hasn't brought the sheep home yet either, so he needs to do that. Or start getting those sheep builders. But is going to do the silver tree. Stone for Helios. Yep, he is on the stone. Up to 200 right now, so he's going for a second TC in the feudal. Built a bunch of traders. Queued up a whole bunch of them. They do cost wood. Is trading directly... Is that even... It's not even giving gold.
No, there's a network developing. Okay, this is the first part of the network where you do that first, and then there should be a market all the way in the other corner. The issue with that is there is no market in the other corner.
Yeah.
So these traders, even though their bags look full, instead of gold, it's probably like coal or something. I don't know.
It's humorous, is what it is. Humorous, and gives us content. You know, that fat 0, food 0.
Fool's gold, Socraton. Oh my god. Oh, that's such.
You're mad because you're mad because you didn't make it. Huh?
Yes. But take a look at what TheReal is doing behind these. There's a booming trade economy that he has here, and he's towering in basically a nice circle all the way around
Yeah.
the base of Helios, which, if your trade was giving you more than 0 gold, is a fantastic idea, because
Yeah.
you're gonna see where the enemy army is coming from. As an English player, because your army is a little bit slower, you're gonna have to react better, and you're gonna have to do more of a predictable uh, response to all of these things. So you having towers out like this, instead of speeding up traders, which obviously could be used to speed up traders, he is deciding to get more vision of his opponent, which is something I don't see a lot of low elo players do with their towers. They think of it more of a protective force instead of an offensive vision gaining perspective. And I gotta say, kudos for Real for actually doing that.
Yeah, it's a really smart idea. Has a whole bunch of traders in queue, is getting some gold off of them, and I really, really, really hope Helios invests into shutting this down, because that would just be the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. Does go for the tower, gets a ram to get rid of that tower. The spearman gonna come out, will get cleaned up by the longbowman, so it has to run. One dies, another one, they're gonna get out of there, it looks like.
You know what I think of while seeing these traders? I'm sorry, I know there's a game going on, but the one thing I can think about when seeing these traders is every time they go, I'm thinking slide to the right, slide to the left.
Slide to the left.
Every time
Slide to the right.
for 1 gold. Sorry, please continue.
Oh, it's so good. Right foot, 2 stomps. Bam, bam. Anyway, yeah, has a metric buttload of villagers on the wood. The wood line is disappearing quickly. Cha-cha, real smooth now. Yeah, and on the other side, we see Helios getting some more farms, is now a good pile on gold, and is looking to drop that King's Palace. So does the, you know, not a fast castle, but does go to castle nonetheless after getting some units on the board. Meanwhile, we have 19 spearmen from TheReal, towers everywhere. Battering ram gonna go down. I don't think it's gonna quite. It might set it on fire. Yeah, so there it goes on fire. No villager nearby to repair it, so that eventually will die and need to be repaired because it will be a hole in that ring. Does garrison them into the burning building, which I just find hilarious.
They're trying to put the fires out with their spears, not really working too well.
Yeah, they're you know in there throwing around some thoughts and prayers, but it didn't work.
Now, I think Helios is doing a good job going up to Castle Age right now, because that's really where he's going to get the little power spike that he needs to, you know, get rid of some of these towers, because he did the old school tower rush defense where you built a blacksmith, and then you got siege engineering, and then you got units, and then you built a ram, and then, you know, all that kind of stuff where people complained about the Mongols having overpowered tower rush because of how much resources it took for that tower rush to end.
Yeah.
When it comes to what Helios is trying to do, those outposts aren't really doing much for you. You know, like on the other side, it's not really worth doing all of that. You have another gold resource anyway. So, by you using those resources, it really delayed your castle time.
Yeah, and it delayed your castle time, and you didn't have to, I mean, you know, build an all-ram to send it around to these towers that are around here that you saw. It's fine, but you know, you didn't have to. So let's like take a look at the vision here. So he sees like an entire ring of the whole map. Any action that happens on Helios's end, TheReal knows about. Is finally moving that trade post to the opposite side after he got a good number of traders out. But then we switch to the other side, and all you see is this, right? You did scout out this little mini trade going on here. But, you know, you're scared. He knows there's a ring of towers, doesn't know what kind of units are being made because he's kind of in this hole. Is actually, you know, behind on eco because of those traders. But you know, the 20-some traders he has are only just now becoming effective.
And you just saw what happened.
Yeah.
all of those traders, there were about 11 of them, following the silver tree to the other end of the map. They just dropped off 15 food, 15 wood, 183 gold each,
Yeah.
right there at the end. Then he still has another 5 of them coming in for him also on the other side, carrying the exact same thing. So now, because that gold economy has essentially skyrocketed, going with the curl tie in Castle Age, and I want to know your personal opinion on the curl tie.
I mean, so you go Kurultai because you have trade and don't need gold, right? That's like why you do it. Because otherwise, you're like, you then have the gold income here and the gold income here, and it's just like why, right?
That's the thought process, yes.
I think heals nearby units with an aura of 1 every 1 second. Okay, fine. They remove the Khan's necessity to be there to heal. The 25 damage boost is the kicker, because 1 every 1 second is like, meh. But the 25% damage boost is insane, but the Kurultai takes insane amounts of micro. Because the range on it is okay, right? It's really good for, like, archers to stand here and shoot something here. You know, similar to, like, what the English would do, right? Where they could stand here and shoot the units coming in. But for, like, melee units, which, you know, the Mongols tend to like their knights, they tend to like their men-at-arms. It makes it really difficult because, like, in order to be effective, you have to drop the Kurultai here. Run the Khan into range of it, and then have your men-at-arms fight towards it, right? And so it's really good. I feel like you have to treat the Kurultai as a unit, not a landmark. Yeah, that's probably true, Socrates. I think that's a decent analogy. Also, Ascalon, thanks for the raiding party of 5. At any rate, it just takes so much micro. And so I build it because I know I don't need the other one, and then I kind of use it as like a pseudo keep, where any units I have at home defending get that boost and get a little bit of healing. And then short of that, I'm not microing it forward too much because my micro is garbage.
Yeah, when it comes to the Kurultai, we just saw it pack up and move. You're right in treating it as a unit. The issue is when you have a civ that you're playing against who maybe in Castle Age they like to make knights, something that, you know, the English could do, or you're up against a civ that is rather mobile, the Kurultai is never going to keep up.
Yeah.
And the Kurultai, just because it takes time to move, it takes time to unpack, it takes time to pack, and all that kind of stuff. Unless you have some upper echelon area of micro, it's so difficult to actually use the Kurultai usefully. To the point where, in the ELO that I'm watching, I would rather you make the step readout and then trade your gold using the silver tree.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's not necessarily a bad idea, because if you're not gonna, like, in theory you don't need the step readout, but are you gonna use the step readout better than you're using the Kurultai? You know what I mean?
Right.
And the answer is yeah, probably. And I think, like I said, I think it has its uses. It could technically be a defensive landmark where if you had your Khan and army at home defending, it does give you that damage amp, right? Which would help a ton in a fight. But I think it's supposedly supposed to be an aggressive landmark where you, like, hyper micro it forward and put your guys in it and blah, blah, blah. But it's just so hard to do. Keep on the side of the English, though, defending those farms. Not terrible placement. Should technically wall, like, here so you can't get snuck by.
Well, and what actually happens with the Kurultai is if you take a fight that you lost, you have to pack up the Kurultai and run it back to your base, where the winning soldiers just burn it down.
Yeah.
So you have to take fights that you know you're going to win, which is very difficult.
47 men-at-arms.
Yeah, one thing that I will say that TheReal is doing such a good job of is he has obviously this fantastic economy because of the silver tree and the trade. But
yeah,
he's able to use all of his resources. You saw how much gold he threw in. He had like 2,000 gold or something like that.
Yeah.
He made men-at-arms. He bought wood and made pastures. You know, he's continuing to queue villagers, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas we're watching Helios on the other side, he's not doing that. He's got 1,500 gold in the bank. He's doing things like making a keep, which, yes, is going to help him for defensive structures, but you're about to have 60 men-at-arms and 23 spearmen knock down your door, and I think what the real is going to do is just end up pop capping himself.
Yeah.
Get to the 200. Doesn't need to make houses.
He's going to have 100 men-at-arms and just face smash is what he's going to do.
And he's going to win.
Yep. And that's what he's going to do.
That.
Yeah, and he's going to move the Kurultai up to do it as well, and maybe even get that damage amp if he brings the Khan with him. No, he's going back home. No, he's chilling here in the middle. And here they come.
This is textbook of why using your resources is a good thing. We're watching it right here. And then we're going to see the fact that all of those resources turned into units, and we're going to watch this battle unfold.
Yep, and it's going to be, you know, how many is this? 64 men-at-arms pushing forward. And they're going to get that heal. They're not going to get the damage buff, but they are going to get the heal. And there's just so many here that it doesn't matter.
Right. And now Helios sees all of the men-at-arms come out of the Delta Forest. He's like, fuck me.
Yeah.
And gets out of there. And the thing is, this keep doesn't have burning oil either. So if he wants to siege that down, he's more than welcome to.
Yeah, he's just going to, just win by attack moving here. Kurultai over here for that healing. The Wololo. Oh, good pull. Good choice against Men-at-Arms. Doesn't quite get any.
That could have been bad.
Yeah, that would have been. Imagine the swing on that military graph at the end of the game. But yeah, like you said, no boiling oil, not getting that 30 damage to all the units around it. Which again, you know, it would take a while for it to kill 100 Men-at-Arms anyway. Is moving the Kurultai, is doing the thing, but it's, you know, it's going to be a little late for that healing to really kick in. Now the Khan's here, and he just taps out because, again, you just can't do anything about that. So I think TheReal had some crazy strategies. I think that trading was odd.